some really cool plans for our bridges in the future.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
All right, so the other day we were kidding around about the yikes factor in pedestrian and bike paths for our 3 major bridges in the state. I am sure that's something that would be a major tourism boom or boon, or whatever word you want to use, but I'll tell you, I joke that maybe not me. Then again, who knows? I've crossed a few bridges in my time. You just got to keep moving, you know. Not a big height guy, but I think this is going to be really interesting stuff. And the price tag to me doesn't seem that extraordinary. We'll talk about it with the boss of the bridges in just a moment. Nice to have you, and thanks very much. Happy Thanksgiving to you. The issues of the day that we wanted to just kind of touch on. The headline here, although the market this afternoon when I began the taping of the broadcasts, don't tell anybody, but we tape each day's broadcast in the early afternoon. It was up a couple hundred points, but know that the value of the stock market has literally wiped out the 2018 gains. And I don't know if this is a correction. We'll do some work on this in the next couple of weeks to see where we ought to be for 2019 and our investments. But how the market links to the economy is somewhat sketchy. The president's been somewhat quiet about it, has he not? Yes, he has. Let me tell you something. If the screws start to become really loose here economically, and if the market starts to wobble in any more significant fashion, I think you're going to see a whole different disposition in Washington re a whole bunch of things. So be careful with your investments, steady as we go. This is not the time to panic, and I'll tell you, every investor analyst will tell you there's never a time to panic. But this is a correction, and we'd be blind not to take a note of it. Let's get some expertise on that coming up in the next couple of weeks. This is cracking me up. The lines here, the headline, 2 spots in Massachusetts now where it's legal to buy your dope. And here was the very strange grand opening in Northampton.
3, 2, 1.
That's the mayor of Northampton, excuse me, who bought the first bag of dope. There you go. And reportedly, he's going to frame it or put it in a museum somewhere in Northampton. This is the worst concept of legislation that I have seen in a dog's age, where you legalize a couple of spots and maybe a third to come. You can't use the product anywhere in public. Has to be used only on your property. Can't really bring it to another state and use it in any kind of capacity, because in Rhode Island there's still, you know, kind of a type of law enforcement disposition about it. But I'll tell you one thing, there's certainly a market for it. The lines were hours in length to get into opening night or opening day, as the case may be. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old, but I'm just thinking we don't know what we're doing. We just don't know what we're doing, and we may never know what we're doing. But there'll be a slow crawl because there's a market for it. The High Point Tower headline is really interesting. We've got Mayor Orloza, who's got to make a decision here in the next week or so. Here's Eyewitness News coverage of this really dramatic Providence matter.
Providence City Council gives final approval to the Hope Point Tower, passing a zoning change to raise the maximum height of parcel 42 on the old 195 land where New York developer Jason Fain wants to build it.
We should not be making any special exception for any of our developers.
This is a $300+ million project that will inject new life and vitality into this community.
Dante Bellini is a spokesperson for the Fain organization, which plans to purchase the land, and asked for the zoning change to build the 600-foot residential tower. Council President David Salvatore abstained from the vote, saying Fain's proposal wasn't vetted enough.
I'm not convinced that he is going to move forward with this project. There's clearly not a market for luxury housing rents in the capital city.
The council passed the ordinance 9-5, sending it to Mayor Alorza's desk.
The design is really important to me. It has to work for the city of Providence.
Alorza has put out a list of conditions for his support, asking the developer to expedite construction, make a public contribution to the city, and give the city final approval on the design.
If I get the assurances, I'm fine with this going forward. If I don't get these assurances, then sure, I'll veto it.
We are open to discussing with the mayor any and all issues, but we will not do it as an ultimatum.
Yeah, well, you know, whatever. We'll try to get Dante in next week to talk about this. I don't think the mayor's laid the lumber down by any stretch. He's looking for a little bit of extra investment. The guy's putting $300 million in. And an expedited timetable because he doesn't want to see the thing hanging half built for the rest of our lives. I get that. Listen, I think the elephant in the room that is it's more than the elephant in the room. I guess the elephant in the room concept is that nobody's talking about the problem. I think the real issue is that it looks weird. It just looks weird. It's not congruent with the rest of the skyline. And as the one city councilor, Salvatore, was saying, he's not exactly sure whether the market bears this. Then again, who's going to put $300 million up in an experienced developer putting $300 million up if he doesn't figure that it's going to work? I'd like to see the other tall building that you can leap with a single bound fixed first. I'd like to see the Citizens Bank building have some kind of resolve. Everyone's sitting around there picking their nose over that building, and this, you know, give it a shot. But what are we doing with the places that we haven't figured out yet? We'll talk more about it next week. In the meantime, headline here about nearly 1,000 people showing up for the former First Lady's funeral and goodbye yesterday. It's a beautiful family. It really is. I didn't get to go to the funeral yesterday, but did attend the wake on Monday night. And the governor is incredible. The family has always been a beautiful family. The governor stood in line from 3 o'clock in the afternoon, most likely till near midnight, all by himself with the family on the side, greeting every single person who wanted to offer condolences. He is, you know, he's 76 years old. He looks terrific. His heart was broken, as you can expect. But the gravitas that he exemplified with the First Lady lying and stayed next to him, and him standing next to that casket, and taking quality time with each of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who came to pay their respects, was a picture in my mind that I'll never forget. God bless her. She was a terrific First Lady, and he wasn't such a bad governor himself. Godspeed, and I'm sure he's got many years to still enjoy his life with his family. In the meantime, let us turn to the issue of the day, and that is that thing. I will tell you, that was a grabber, that photo in the Journal. But I'll tell you, as soon as I saw it, buddy, I went, woo! That'd be high. That's high. I mean, it's not like we don't know how high the bridge is. By the way, how high is the bridge?
400 feet to the top of the tower. To the tower.
Well,
200 from the road deck.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I know you're going to try to con me into taking a ride to the top of the
love to
tower
have you come
at
up,
some
man.
juncture, but my goodness. Give me the executive summary on this. We have a plan in place. Is it hypothetical? What's this? What are we looking at?
It's a discussion point. It is hypothetical. As we celebrate our 50 years of the Newport Pell Bridge, it's time to look to the future and what could the future hold. If that bridge were to be built today at the tune of $1.5 billion,
wow,
it would have clearly would have a walking path, it would have a bike path, it would clearly have a big breakdown lane. So as we began to look at what the future could hold, we've had internal discussions about the potential, and I say potential, of bike paths, walking paths, and also an observation tower at the top. It would be a very public discussion for a long time. We have to see if there's an appetite for it. And obviously, it would be a costly venture that we would have to figure out how to fund it.
All right. Well, big idea, tentative timetable. We'll talk about why when we come back. Stay with us.
I'm sure one of my kids will.
I'm sure. All right. Here's some of the detail on the proposal.
Revealed for the first time on Wednesday, the Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority says these plans could enhance tourism and boost revenue for the state. They include an observation tower 400 feet above the water atop the Newport Pell Bridge. There are also bike and pedestrian paths being considered for the Pell, Mount Hope, and Jamestown bridges.
The first step in a long journey.
Eric Umberg, the director of engineering, said the tower could be a top tourist attraction and the paths will enhance access to Jamestown and Aquidneck Island.
When you get up on the top of the towers, you can see Block Island, you can see Martha's Vineyard, you can see Providence, you can see Connecticut. The view is absolutely spectacular.
Conceptual renderings were unveiled of the potential projects, and officials say the preliminary costs for the bike and pedestrian paths range from $25 to $50 million.
It would probably take 3 to 4 years to cut the ribbon and start walking across that bridge.
Croft says bicycles and pedestrians will not be charged to cross the bridge.
So, Buddy is actually here, 2 places at once. That's kind of cool. With all the capital expenditure that we've had in the state, in the country, in the region, I don't get my pennies in a bundle over $25 to $50 million.
Well, when you look, we have a $225 million 10-year plan, and we've had one toll increase in the history of the Turnpike and Bridge, and it was the cash rate, not the local rate. Our board has always been very sensitive to the toll rate, as they should. A project of this magnitude would involve a combination, or could involve a combination of federal, state, private, foundational, all types of potential funding to get them to that point in time. And the reason we came out with a range, Dan, and even come out with conceptual drawings, we thought that to come out and talk about it without talking about potential ranges might not be as prudent. We think people would want to know, what could it cost? It could depend on what type of materials we used. It could depend on what it actually looked like, what the design looked like, and we want to go out at some point in the future to the public and have a dialogue.
Well, obviously you started the dialogue, and I think it's actually pretty smart to create the vision, to discuss the possibilities, and to see if you can garner public support for it. I think you probably would, especially if it's positioned as an economic boost, because I think it probably would be. Certainly the locals would love to take their bikes and take a run or a walk over each of the bridges, but it seems to me that this, even at $25 to $50 million, I'm not all about borrowing, loosely, but this seems to me to have some kind of ROI kind of built into it, doesn't it?
It does. We've looked at some similar facilities around the country, and we think there's a great potential. The bike walking path there'd be no charge for that. It would not be open 24/7. Certainly for certain times of the day, because security reasons, it would be closed. And in addition, we would look, as some other facilities have, possibly rent that out for certain events at certain times a year. But for people to ride or bike across, there'd be no charge.
The Turnpike and Bridge Authority is a separate agency.
It is.
It's a quasi-public agency that is self-funded, correct?
Well, kind of, sort of. We have tolls. We bring in about $20 million a year in tolls. And we have a little bit, about $15.7 million a year in gas tax.
Okay. Dedicated by the legislature to this cause.
Yes.
But for the most part, you make your own autonomous decisions, correct?
We do. The governor appoints our 5 board members. The board members appoint the executive director, and we go from there. Yeah,
so I think a consensus of leadership and perhaps a little push in the legislature to help along with this thing. A 4 or 5 year schedule on this, is that from Jump Street, meaning once everyone says, yeah, let's go, or is that what you're projecting all the rigmarole included to be?
I would say it would be a good 3 to 5 years of all in.
After the green light.
Bingo. No, after the green light, I would say it could be 2 to 3 years, but it's a ways to get there. We want to have a robust public discussion to see if there is an appetite, to see if there's a way to get there, but more importantly, we want to talk about, if there is an appetite, what might the design look like? What would you incorporate? What would be the materials? We think that there might be an appetite, but we want to find out for certain.
Well, the concept is above ground and underground, meaning, or above bridge and under bridge. Really kind of cool. Is it the same for both Newport, Jamestown, and Mount Hope?
Probably Mount Hope. Mount Hope we might be able to get underneath, or it could just be cantilevered off the side. Jamestown we might be able to do that with a median barrier and some things along with a median barrier off to the side potentially. We think that would work, but we want to discuss all of those options with the public.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about the differences between those bridges. Stay with us. I'm actually sitting here talking with the executive director of the Bridge Authority about how the public, meaning you, will digest this idea of adding bike path, pedestrian path type of, that you're looking at them on our 3 major bridges, and this observation deck. I mean, or elevator or whatever. By the way, you can get up there now, right?
You can. There's an elevator in one of the towers. You go up 2/3 of the way, you climb the rest of the way, and then you have the most majestic view in all of New England. And you're coming up there, right?
You climb the rest of the way?
You inside the tower. There's a ladder that you climb. You go up about 2/3 of the way on the elevator inside the tower. Then you climb. There's a ladder inside the tower that you climb the last third. Then
I'm literally trying. The sweat is breaking out on my forehead as we speak. But we'll make the date, and then we'll see. And then, yeah, you know,
we have had people get in the elevator and think better of it. So,
like, no, thank you. Yeah. I got you. But as far as listen, I ran over the George Washington Bridge, you know, on a 10K race 20 years ago. I've taken a lot of bike tours over bridges. It's a beautiful experience. Certainly something that would add value. I don't see the public outcry. Are you worried about that?
There may be some people that think that this is something that is not within our purview. This is not something that we should consider. We should maintain the bridges to the best of our ability.
Well, look, we're in a post-38 studio malaise around here. Maybe this is the thing that will break us out of it. If you can show a pro forma that this is a potential return on investment, it seems to me that it makes a lot of sense. An observation deck, thank God most of the population doesn't have a little bit of a height issue like I do. An observation deck, I think, would be a tremendous asset to the whole tourism story here.
We think it could. 5 or 6 people who visit Newport are day trippers. We think this would be a terrific addition to that bridge is an economic engine in Rhode Island, and we think that this can add to it tourism and
you would charge people for the trip up the elevator.
Oh, absolutely. There'd be a charge for that.
Yeah, so
as there are in facilities all over the world.
All right. So what about the Mount Hope Bridge, though? I have to tell you a quick funny story. 10, 12 years ago, I was coming over the bridge and there was construction going on. It was a 1 lane only, just, you know how the guy says stop, waves everybody through, stop. And my knee is wobbling on the brake, kind of like, okay guys, let's go. I mean, that thing's got a little bit of a buoy to it, doesn't it?
All suspension bridges do.
Yeah.
And
well, it looks
Hope,
old enough to.
Well, it's coming up on its 90th anniversary.
Yeah. Is it okay without the doggone pedestrian bike thing?
It is fine. Suspension bridges sway. That bridge, think of, Dan, you're out in Cumberland, in the hinterlands of Cumberland, in your hometown, and you're on a 2-lane highway.
Yeah.
That's what the Mount Hope Bridge is. There's no breakdown lane. It's a very narrow 2-lane highway.
I'm well aware.
And to that end, we need to constantly do work to keep it structurally, the integrity of the structure. We need it to be safe. We understand it's an inconvenience. And when you're stuck at the top, sometimes it does sway.
Well, the nice thing about it is that when it's running smoothly, you're on and off it in about 10 seconds. It feels like it anyway. But structurally, you got a couple $100 million plan going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Mount Hope Bridge will be what it is in perpetuity here, that the maintenance will allow for it to just be consistently maintained?
We believe, Dan, just as the Newport Pell Bridge, we think that those structures are going to be around for another 90 years or another 50. The cost to replace, when the Newport Bridge was built, it was about $57 million. It would cost about $1.5 billion to build that bridge today with a B. So we think we've done a reasonably good job of maintaining them, and we think they'll be around for a long time. And that's why we're in the infancy stages of discussing concepts like this, because we think those bridges will be around.
By the way, we don't have the picture renderings because it just dawned on me that I should have asked this question. But Carpiano Group is looking to build their Newport thing on the other on the Newport side of the bridge, and access egress is going to change. And like, are we on the way with that thing?
We're working. That is a DOT project. We're working hand in glove with DOT because we're an intimate part of that plan with the exit ramp, the farewell ramp, and what have you. I think they're getting closer to some public announcements on that. But they suffice to say, there's a lot of synergy between us and DOT on that project.
So you've had ongoing maintenance and some stop-starts over the course of the summer. What's the current status?
The deck project will begin again sometime in the spring, next spring, and then it'll continue again in the fall after the Drain project, after the museum has their event. There will be a very, very, very aggressive public outreach on the part of the Turnpike and Bridge. We've spent $1 million on an ATMS system, which will synchronize all our messaging to get things out to our consumers and our users a little bit better. But again, when you are doing work on the bridge, it will impact traffic, and we're going to try to get the message out. We'll ask people to adapt their travel times if possible, their commute times. We work closely with the base. We work closely with the Naval Defense. Obviously, all of the business and Discover Newport and Newport Chamber. Okay. But it will be coming.
So again, we only have 20 seconds here. Tell me, what do you think the timetable will be potentially to get a green light to go?
If indeed there's an appetite, the green light to go could take a year maybe to get there, with a lot of public discussion, and then it could take another 2 to 3 years to build.
Well, I appreciate the way you're going about it. I think it's the kind of transparency that Rhode Islanders are starving for, which is that, hey, here are the ideas, here's what we're thinking, here's what the money could be. Well, let's talk about it. I think it's the right way to do it, so congratulations on that part of it. And let's keep those bridges intact, will you? And
we'll do our best.
See if you can stop it from...
You could stay off it. You'll never have that issue.
Well, guess what? I drive around it, but that's just me. Final word when we come back. So it'll be interesting to see what the progress of this idea is. There's always a group of people that say no, but if there's a return on investment, this is one of those things I think that could really help tourism and the quality of life around here, which is something that we have to continue to invest in. So we'll see how that process continues. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll revisit our conversation about the preserve at Boulder Hills tomorrow night and the boomerang factor coming back to Rhode Island on Friday night. You have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in.